Welcome back. Yes, you are still live with Expresso as we delve into a bit of a family chat right now. It's not quite the birds and the bees talk, but more of a prequel for today's parenting topic. We are talking about navigating puberty and all of the awkwardness that is bound to come with that conversation. I used to be approaching with much trepidation. Now I'm quite excited, actually, about doing this. Registered counsellor and friend of the show, Shanaz Moors, joins us on the couch to share her thoughts, because you've been through it all. You've had to do this, man. That's why I love talking.
3 times.
3 times over. Have you gotten better at having the conversation?
Yeah, I've become more, what's the word, zen now when I say it. I keep a straight face and everything, you know. So, yeah.
Because surely that's the thing, is we've got to check our own baggage at the door and we've got to approach it with a young mind. We started the conversation yesterday discussing menstruation with our beautiful girl children, and that obviously, for a dad, shouldn't be something that's awkward, but it is naturally. Just in the same vein, the birds and the bees, as we call it, or maybe you want to call it the dinosaurs and the monolithic man, whatever you want to call it. It's a thing that is shrouded in mystery, and it really shouldn't be, because it's one of the most natural progressions in life. Why do you think it's so important that we demystify puberty for our children?
Yeah, I think just the term puberty, I think this, you just say it and everyone just starts looking for shelter.
Yeah, I'm hiding behind the plants right now.
Yeah, so I mean, and puberty actually is a Latin word. It comes from, it means adulthood. So what does it mean? Your child is now transitioning into adulthood. So it's physical growth, but here's the scary one, and sexual maturity. I think that's what makes all the parents run and hide those words, you know. So we'll delve into that a little bit more.
And undoubtedly, it is going to be one of those difficult conversations to have, but it's something that you want to be prepared to have. Don't wait until the onset before you've started broaching that, and at least have the tone in conversation. So what words do we use? How do we approach the conversation?
So the conversation must start early, like we were having before we started, that at 5 and 6 there's a curiosity about the body. You know, and knowing, and especially if you've got siblings with different body parts, there'll be this, but why doesn't, you know, Jack's going to say, but she doesn't have, and then you must be ready to answer. That's the question for that age, right? And then every few months, every year, there may be a new question. So in the younger years, the child initiates that discussion. But by 8 years old, you need to step in and start talking about the body's changes, because girls start menstruating as early as 9.
Yeah.
So you can't, on the day, have a discussion. It has to start before then.
Should it be a talk, because that already feels like it's putting pressure on me, or a continuation of a conversation? Surely you want to have that rhythm, that ability to be able to communicate with your child in place long before you have to deal with any difficult subject matter like this.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I remember my own The Talk, given to me by a sister, actually. I've got 2 older sisters. But I always swore I would do that myself. So when my daughter was 8, 9, we started the discussion. So when she's going to kill me when I'm talking about her. But when the day arrived, she was calm, and her dad said, I expected like fireworks and volcanoes. Drama, and it's because we had spoken about it. There's lots of booklets. Quite a few sanitary companies have like a little bag with different things in, including information booklet.
Little starter kits.
Yeah, which I had kept, and, you know, we went through it. There's lots of books, picture books even, that talk about changes in boys, changes in girls, what's going to happen. So there are so many tools out there that weren't available, you know, when our parents didn't do the talk. So parents need to be proactive about how they go about doing this conversation, this continuous conversation.
I was a young boy who went to boarding school.
Oh,
so
dear.
You can imagine when that talk started.
Peers.
There's all sorts of misinformation and urban legends and all sorts of craziness tied into that. And now we've got the added pressure of social media. If we're not going to have that conversation, they're going to get the information, and maybe not from the source that you can control or you want.
Yeah, I think what's really changed drastically is what is out there on social media and how early kids want to be in puberty already. Before, kids were like, didn't want to get there. Yeah. Now they can't wait to look mature.
And the loss of childhood.
And social media promotes all of that, the makeup, the clothes. So it's actually saying you want to be grown up quickly, because then for girls, boys will like you. So that there is that element of social media that I remember, I didn't know, you have to talk to your kids about that, because they on their own are just pulled into the magneticness of all of that.
I mean, even we are as adults with all of our fully equipped bag of tools, so it's perfectly understandable. We're going to expand on this topic. I think it also becomes a beautiful platform for empowerment, to empower your children with that knowledge of how special their body is and how they can look after themselves, but you want it to be a continued conversation. So if you've got any baggage, check it at the door, because we're going to continue our discussion. We are talking about puberty right now and how you can broach that topic and continue that conversation with your own child.
It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Earlier in the show, registered counsellor Shanaz Moos shared her thoughts on broaching the topic of puberty with our kids. And we are continuing that conversation right now with Shanaz. I don't want my little babies to grow up, man. I just don't want it to happen, but I can see it with my 4-year-old. It's mind-blowing, his sense of self-awareness, that I know that conversation. In fact, it has started. I think the second that mommy fell pregnant with his sister, we had to actually start talking about from anatomy to what it's going to mean to his life. But it enters a phase when the children start pushing into kind of the tween space where it does become awkward. How do we get past that? How do we let go of our own nonsense and our own baggage as parents so that we don't have to have any awkwardness and can approach this in a positive and a wholesome way?
You know, I think there's a lot of shaming around body and body development. So certain words aren't allowed to be said, and they're actually body parts. So I think first get comfortable using the words that are meant to be used, like we were discussing. I'm not sure if you can say it on air, but okay, that body parts. But that whole thing, I remember my son in grade 4, the teacher, she chastised him for saying one of the words. He came home upset. So I said, please tell teacher it's a body part, look it up, it's in the dictionary. And that I gave you permission to use it.
Every single human being has one.
So it's
about
being comfortable with the terminology. And at some point, you're going to have to, if your child's avoiding you, you're going to have a series of conversations. Do you know what I'm trying to say? So there's no avoiding it at all.
How does it look for boys and for girls? I don't mean how does it look, I mean how does the conversation look for boys and for girls?
So, well, the conversation for girls has to start earlier because their puberty sets in about from 8 on.
And emotionally, I think they're probably a little bit better equipped for the conversation earlier?
Permanently, emotionally better equipped. And then for boys, it's 2 years after that. So if you've got like a boy and a girl, you'll actually see, I've been through. Actually, I tried to tell my husband, listen here, you the dad have these talks. He was like, I don't need to. So I was then thrown in the deep end, which I did more of with the third child, which is my son, because he engages more in the dialogue about those things. I'm so glad they don't watch this program and see any of the stuff I say.
I know, we'll put it on YouTube and they can see it
so they'll never Google me on YouTube. So the thing is that you have to have this conversation, and I think it's important to have a conversation with girls about what happens to boys and the other way around. That don't make it only, you only need to know, like you're having this conversation with your son, what's happening. So he understands, because so many boys wonder, where does the baby come out from? Like, where, So that conversation, which I'm sure you've had a part of that.
We had a C-section. Cha-ching.
Oh, so shortcut, okay. But still, it's still a conversation.
It's gotta come out.
And we assume that as parents, school is covering that topic.
Yeah.
But kids are so immature when teachers try to bring up reproduction or anything, that they're too embarrassed to ask the questions, or they make fun. And they don't get any useful content that they need to know about themselves and their own bodies.
What if your child is lagging behind the curve? And every child is completely different. You see it through their development. Even as a toddler, everyone is kind of constantly weighing their child's growth up against another. And we know they'll all get to the same place eventually. But how do you broach it if your child is lagging behind in that critical phase while other children are experiencing it and it's something that's happening to them and not to your child? How do you kind of make them feel okay?
Okay, your first thing would have to take the child to be checked out by a doctor, family doctor, pediatrician, to make sure that there's nothing wrong, there's no medical condition, sometimes just delayed puberty. But the emotional side effects of delayed puberty are terrible for the child, because with boys, all the boys are shooting up. and here comes your little miniature child, the same age and that affects boys, I don't think girls worry so much about the shortness, they worry about breast development.
Yeah.
That they are still wearing a vest, like a vest from Woolworths, and their friend got their first training bra. So those are the things that you would speak about. You can see how different the conversations are, and that you need to be okay in having that conversation without the shaming part. Like, your time will come. That's a common statement. No, don't worry if you don't have, your time will come. Not with empathy, oh, I see how all your friends look more mature and you feel a bit left behind. That would be the correct response.
Okay. Any final words of advice for the parents that have been hiding behind their bougainvilleas throughout this entire conversation?
Yeah. Talking about puberty and sexual maturity doesn't mean you give your child permission to go out and be sexually active. It's about equipping your child with knowing their body and what's going to happen, and that the changes are natural and normal. So if you're not comfortable with it, find someone, a family member, their doctor they're used to, someone they trust and they feel safe with. So I'm not saying you have to have the talk if you really can't, but I'd rather be the one having the talk because I always know where you're at with information.
No, I love that. So you can keep checking in. It should be a regular thing. Parents, say it with me. Penis, 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 vagina, vagina, vagina. We can do
penis,
this.
Penis.
We can have the
All on
conversation.
board.
It's up to you to help promote a positive self-image when it comes to emotion, when it comes to mentality, and especially when it comes to your child's body. And it starts with just that conversation. Don't build it up into this massive thing that's got to loom above you. Start the conversation today in a safe way that you feel comfortable with.